Hey y'all, hi. I'm so excited today to be bringing you a review of Glow by Auric. The brand launched with two products, the Glow Lust and the Smoke Reflect. I have one of each. I have the very close-up, detailed overhead footage, swatches, swatch comparisons, formula comparisons. I also have footage of myself applying both products to my face. That's the look that I have on today. I'll be going through that. I'm going to be talking you through all of the points, all of my thoughts so far. I've had them for a couple of days and I've used them a bunch of times. I've spent a day and a half using these products over and over again so that I would be able to bring you a relatively robust review, even though they just launched. If this is your first time to my channel, I'm so glad that you are here. I'm Hannah and I love beautiful things, but I don't want to promote overspending and I don't want to buy too much stuff myself. So I always keep a sense of balance in my reviews and in my celebration of beauty here on my channel. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll subscribble bibble, as Nisa says. I hope you'll subscribbly double if that sounds good to you. Now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I omitted to say this in the introduction, but I purchased these products myself. I spent some of my channel's budget for review on these two products. So this is an entirely self-sponsored review, totally frank and balanced. But I should say up front that I am subscribed to Samantha Ravndal, who created this brand. I do enjoy watching her videos. And so because of that, I am predisposed to like the products. I really, really wanted to like them. And I think that that's a little bit different from buying just from any old brand and just reviewing it with no context, without knowing anything about the people who conceived of it and formulated it. However, that reminds me to say that one of the things that I really like about the brand right out of the gate is that it seems like it was really clearly designed to be a standalone brand, not a branch of the cult of personality of the influencer, which I think a lot of influencer brands are. A lot of them are that second thing. It seems like they really, really clearly wanted to flourish on its own merits and not to flourish only because Sam has so many loyal subscribers. So that actually does help me to separate my feelings about the brand and my reaction to the products from my mild parasocial relationship with Samantha Ravndal, and that is great. Of course, all of that stuff aside, I will be bringing you as thorough and as honest a review as I possibly can. I just feel like it's good to let you know where I'm coming from as I meet the brand. Now, I chose to make this one of my self-sponsored reviews for the year, partly because it was so highly requested. I actually don't think anything has ever been so vigorously requested as a review of these products on my channel, but I'm also kind of intrigued. I watched Sam's announcement video, of course, and she kind of indicated that these are products that are like her version of things that she's really, really loved, that she, because she only buys cruelty-free makeup now, can't buy and use anymore. So she kind of indicated that these are like inspired by or derived from iconic industry products. But then when I saw what the actual products were, I really saw how completely these are dupes. I mean, let's just not sugarcoat it. This is a dupe for Charlotte Tilbury's Hollywood Flawless Filter, and this is a dupe for Tom Ford Cream and Powder eyeshadow. Sam didn't say it quite like that, but I think it's very, very clear. And I own both of those products, and so I'm going to be comparing them up, down, and all around town, and I'm telling you they are dupes. But the thing that's really interesting is that they're not cheaper dupes. They're not like a lower price and you get the same thing. In many ways, they're actually more luxurious. I shouldn't even just say in many ways. These are more luxurious. These are real luxury compared to just sort of the luxury branding of those two luxury products. That's pretty spectacular. This one's much cheaper than the Tom Ford. This one I think is about the same price as the Charlotte Tilbury, but you're getting more bang for your buck in terms of luxury. That's really interesting. And then the other thing about this brand is that it's just more ethical than those brands. Better representation, more eco-friendly, glass packaging. Just also it's independent. You're supporting, somebody smaller rather than one of these industry giants. The whole concept is really original and intriguing, even though the products are inspired by. So compared to some influencer brands where they're like, I came up with my own, color story for an eyeshadow palette never before seen, right? It might seem like this is derivative. I think when you take a step back from it and you look at what she chose to do with the brand overall, the launch of the brand, it's pretty inspired. It's pretty original. It's like not trying to reinvent the wheel, not acting like you can come up with something that's never before seen in makeup, but rather doing what the industry's already doing, but doing it better and doing it with higher standards of ethics. That's like throwing down the gauntlet to the makeup industry, being like, if I can do it, then why can't you? Why are you still doing all the garbage that you do when it can be done better in every sense of the word? And given that it's that, I actually like the fact that it's not trying to be color pop. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be like, I'm going to give you luxury, but you're not going to have to pay for it, because stuff that's good, both good quality and ethically good, costs money. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason that I am really into fewer, nicer things, because if you can settle for fewer, nicer things, then you can make purchases that are better in every way. So that's where I was coming from when I decided to purchase these products. Now I'm going to talk about which ones I chose to purchase and why. And I'll also just go ahead and give you a quick overview of how the rest of the video is going to unfold, because I know that some people really like to know what's coming. I'm going to tell you what I got, why. I'm going to tell you about the delivery, the packaging, the process of getting the products. Then I'm going to go into each product individually. I'm going to talk about the formulas. I'm going to give you close-ups, comparisons of the formulas, comparisons of the colors. And then I'm going to show you the application footage of myself putting this look on, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts. In terms of bookkeeping, as I said, it was my channel that made this purchase. The small business that I am running put some of its resources towards this purchase. I have to say, if it were just me, if I didn't have this channel, if I didn't have this little business, I would not have bought these products on the launch day with my own money. And here's why. With the Glow Lust, I already have products like this, right? This is like an all over the face, versatile luminizer. I have the Charlotte Tilbury Flawlywood Hollis filter. That seems like that's what I'm calling it these days. I have the Flawlywood Hollis filter. I also have the Chanel Les Beige liquid illuminator, which I really like. I use both of those products in the same capacity as I will use this product. And it's not in my nature as a consumer to buy the new version, the newly released version of a thing that I already have that's serviceable. I might have considered buying, like putting this on my wish list to buy when I run out of those things, but I wouldn't have like bought it right out of the gate on launch day, especially not without seeing any reviews. The other reason that I would have been hesitant to do that, even if I didn't have products that are similar to this as a consumer myself, is that the lightest shade looks too dark for me. In all of the imagery, Sam's skin tone is way darker than mine, and she's the model for the lightest shade. So that is one of my main questions. It was one of my main concerns when I purchased this as a reviewer. As a consumer, it wouldn't have made me a good candidate for buying it on the launch day, because I would have wanted to wait and see what other very, very pale people said about it in reviews. As a reviewer, it makes me an excellent candidate for purchasing it for review, because I can give you the tea. And if there's anyone else out there who has the concern that I had, I'm going to cover that concern completely in this video. So those are the two reasons that I personally, as a consumer, wouldn't have purchased Glow Lust on the launch. I wouldn't have purchased the eyeshadow because of the three colors, the one that is mine, like the one that sets my heart aflutter, the one that I love the most, the one that's destined for me, which is the bronze one. That's the one that I have in the Tom Ford version, right? I have the Tom Ford Cream and Powder in Naked Bronze, and it is completely against my nature as a consumer to buy like even an improved version of something that I already have in the color in which I already have it, just to see if they're like the same or different. Like that, I would not do that. Again, I would wait. If I would consider, when I ran out of this, buying the Auric one as a replacement, but I wouldn't have been over here spending like the $45 on something pretty much exactly like this just because Samantha Ravndal designed it and it was just released. I think it's important to make this distinction right up front, because I talk a lot about consumer habits on my channel. And I just want you guys to know that making this purchase wouldn't have been in line with my personal consumer habits, but it's very, very much in line with my business habits as a YouTube reviewer. So that's how we got here. So I placed the order on Tuesday afternoon. I actually forgot about the launch. I didn't set an alarm or anything. I'm not really about that life, but I was hoping to remember and to place it pretty early in the day because I was worried that the eyeshadow colors, I was actually worried that the entire line would sell out. I was particularly worried that the eyeshadow colors would sell out. I know that a lot of you guys wanted me to compare Naked Bronze to the bronze that Auric released. I think I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have gotten the rose gold one simply because, again, it would like hurt my heart to buy like an exact thing similar to an exact thing. And I also feel like why? Because here's the thing. If you already have Tom Ford Naked Bronze, don't buy the exact thing from Auric. They're just gonna be too similar. The formulas are very similar. The Auric product is incredibly beautiful. This is one of my favorite products of all time. And so I can guarantee you without having swatched it or tried it that the bronze version from Auric is probably better, right? But not so much better and not so different that it makes sense to jump ship from using up one of these if you already have it to a brand new one because it was just released. So you don't need me to compare them side by side to inform you about whether or not you should buy another Naked Bronze just from this other brand if you still have this. If you don't have Naked Bronze, but you've always wanted it, then I actually feel like you also don't need me to compare them side by side to help you to figure out which one to buy because one is more expensive. The Tom Ford one is much more expensive. And one is from a small, new, independent brand in better packaging, glass packaging. I feel like you can make your decision based on other things. Like I think other people will probably compare the colors. So if you really need to know if the colors are that different, you can, do that. But I kind of feel like even without trying the bronze from Auric, I can tell you that if you've always wanted this, but you don't have it, the Tom Ford one, and you're trying to decide which one to get, personally, if you're definitely gonna get one, I kind of recommend the one from Auric, basically. So I wasn't gonna get the exact thing and swatch it. I was going to get the rose gold one because of the other two, the rose gold and the like smoky gray one. The rose gold is probably the one I would end up getting the most use out of myself. But by the time that I remembered that I was going to try to place this order for review, those two colors were sold out and the only one left was Ego, which is the smoky one. I mean, you can tell I have it all over my eyes. So that's the one that I got. I, of course, purchased the lightest shade of the Glow Lust. Again, I was worried that even it wouldn't be light enough for me, but that was a no-brainer. Shipping was lightning fast. It was very impressive. I ordered on Tuesday afternoon. I think it either shipped on Wednesday or Thursday, and then it was at my doorstep on Friday. I actually think it probably shipped on Thursday, and then it was on my doorstep on Friday. I live in California, and I looked at the package when it arrived, and it had shipped from a warehouse in Long Beach, which is just like a 40-minute drive from where I live. So that's why it arrived so fast. It's partly circumstantial, but it was also pretty amazing. The packaging is incredible. Prepare yourselves. I'm about to like lose my actual shit and gush. The packaging is mind-blowing, like both the inner and the outer packaging. The outer packaging, like I did a goddess design it, like I don't even know how to live. Look at it. Look at it. It has that, what Joe and I call the shark skin penis feeling, that like soft touch matte black feeling. And then it has this absolutely stunning, I mean, I just want to shove it in your face like this, but I have this gorgeous overhead footage, so I'll just roll that footage for you right now. Based on the pictures, I expected it to be stunning. I mean, I knew, but that didn't keep me from just gasping when I opened it and feeling really, really excited. It got me. It's really like the pinnacle of contemporary luxury feeling, this packaging. Like they nailed it in absolutely every way. It feels so high-end that I would have been surprised if Auric had launched with products that were twice as expensive as these. You know what I mean? If they had launched like $120, glowy base and, an $80 eyeshadow, I would have been surprised. I feel like that would have been a bit much. But if you just handed this packaging to me randomly and you were like, this product in this box costs $120, I wouldn't doubt you for a second. The glory of the packaging does not stop with the outer packaging. When you open the boxes and take out the products, you see that they are totally on par with the outer packaging. Really, really beautiful. I don't feel like I need to go into detail about this because this is something actually that Sam covered in pretty good detail in her video, her like brand unveiling video. But I will tell you that they're heavy. They're beautifully heavy in the hand. And the eyeshadow, the Smoke Reflect, is heavier, physically heavier than the Tom Ford version. And the bottle of Luminizer, the Glow Lust, is physically heavier than the bottle of Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. The Hollywood Flawless Filter is packaged in glass with a plastic metal lid. So they're, closer in weight, but the Tom Ford product is entirely packaged in plastic. So this eyeshadow from Auric it's definitely more luxurious feeling. Everything about the experience of opening the box and then opening the boxes inside the box to see the products themselves and then opening the products themselves, everything met and or surpassed my expectations based on the pictures and the launch video. I will say that when I opened the bottom part of the Smoke Reflect, the cream was a little bit crushed. Like it wasn't that perfect little ice cream tip swirl that you expect to see. I think that it had gotten upside down in shipping and the cream had fallen out of the bottom of its glass container onto the lid and they had just squashed together a little bit. So when I opened it and I pulled off this little plastic insert that's on top, there was cream squashed on the plastic insert and the cream on the inside was squashed and it was a little bit wonky. It had like settled back into the pan a little bit to the side. That I'm not the kind of consumer who's over here like, oh my God, like they completely failed to produce this correctly so that it, arrived to me in pristine condition. Like, no, that kind of thing happens. It's just, things get banged around in the mail and gravity and physics, and you can't expect something always to arrive in perfect condition. It's one thing if a product like smashes in the mail. I feel like a company has a responsibility to keep that from happening, but I don't feel like a company necessarily has a responsibility to keep something like a little shift in the way something settled in its pan like that from happening. I know that for some people that kind of thing can be disappointing when you open it and it doesn't look like it looks in all of the pictures, but I feel like I'm gonna start using it. I'm gonna mess it up right away anyway. However, I don't like this little plastic insert that's on top of the cream in here. I find it fussy. It's a little bit difficult to remove. And I took it out. I took the similar insert out of my Tom Ford Cream and Powder back basically like a week after I purchased it, almost an entire year ago, last February, and the cream hasn't dried out. It's totally fine. So I'm hoping that if in this case, taking that little insert out, not using it, didn't cause the cream to dry out, that won't happen in this case either. But I can let you know. I'm risking mine so that I can tell you some months down the line whether or not you desperately need to keep this little plastic insert in to keep it from drying out. The screw top feels really nice and firm and secure, and I'm hoping that I don't need it because I really can't handle having this little thing sliding around and having to pick it out of the jar every time I want to use the product. So let's get into the swatch comparisons. I'm going to talk to you about the formulas and the way that they compare to a bunch of other products in my collection. I do want to say though that if you haven't seen my recent video comparing the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter to the Chanel Les Beige Fluid Illuminator, I hope that you will watch that. Either pause this video and go watch it or watch it after this, partly because you'll see the swatches of these all over my face, which I'm going to compare these to Auric's Glow Lust on my hands, but I'm not going to compare them on my face. All of that footage is in that other video, so you can see that if you want to see it. But also because I held forth in that video a little bit about the dangers of like obsessive comparison between formulas and the way that that can really kind of like lead us into the weeds as conscientious consumers. And I'm about to present to you a bunch of really up close and super obsessive formula comparison. In that video, I talked about the fact that it can be done with joy and lightness, and I do love to indulge in these kinds of details, but I also think that it can be a danger zone depending on kind of where you're at. So I just wanted to put that out there before I launch into the next phase of the video. So starting with Glow Lust. This is a dupe for the Hollywood Flawless Filter. It is exactly the same. It has the same kind of like satiny, same kind of thick texture. It pumps out and the cream completely holds its shape. It has the same kind of satiny, slightly light diffusing finish, the same little bit of coverage that does soften the appearance of blemishes. And yet when you turn, the shine is unreal. So you've like lit up your face, made yourself look dewy and wet, but without putting extra illumination onto your texture, your pores, your blemishes. Everything that's good about the Hollywood Flawless Filter is good about Glow Lust. You know, they're both absolutely beautiful products, and it's the kind of product that I've gotten into using lately that I really, really appreciate. So it's fun to see that this has pulled it off lock, stock, and barrel. So the same wet look, the same slight diffusion of texture, the same satiny finish, the same thick cream, but a much, much better bottle, much more beautiful in my opinion, much higher end feeling in every way. And I really, really love the delivery mechanism. I much prefer a pump, as I actually said in that other video, the Hollywood Flawless Filter versus Chanel video. I prefer a pump. So of course I prefer this, but I also feel like it's just better designed. I love that this pump, you can pump out a little bit if you only want a little bit, or a lot if you want a lot. That's particularly important to me because of the issue with the shade. And I will show you some of the overhead footage that I took. I did a really thick swatch of this product on one hand, so you can kind of see the full color, like the full pigment, color of the pigment. And that full color pigment is too dark for me. It's darker than my skin. It's darker than all of my foundations and concealers. A thick application like that is too dark. But on my other hand, I swatched just a little bit of it and I put a really sheer layer, and you'll see that when it shears out, it's just glowy on my skin, and it kind of moves out of that realm of feeling too dark or feeling like it's gonna darken my skin. Those side-by-side swatches tell me that for me personally, because I have lighter skin than the lightest shade in this range, I need to always make sure that I only use a little bit. So it's particularly helpful that the pump is conducive to choosing just a little bit and choosing a lot if you really want a lot, or if you want to cover a large surface area. My biggest disappointment in this, I think you could actually say my only disappointment in this, is something that I was actually sort of expecting, which is that thing about the shade range. I would love to see a much lighter and more neutral color in this product, a color that would not only give me that satiny glow, but also help to even out my skin tone. With this, it gives me that beautiful satiny glow, but it either kind of keeps my skin at the same level of sort of pinkness and redness, and I deal with redness around my jaw and on my cheeks, or if anything, makes it a tiny bit, especially if I use too much, makes it even a tiny bit darker and makes that line between my neck and my face even more distinct. And I'm always looking to bring the shade of my face up to the lightness of my neck. And of course, I often circle back and darken my neck with a little bit of bronzer to help balance it out. If you have any skin tone pretty much, other than like something so light that it's lighter than this, you can find a shade of Glow Lust that will give you that kind of brightening and evening effect with color correction, as well as being a beautiful luminizer. But for me, because I'm lighter than the lightest shade, it only does the luminizing and it doesn't do the color brightening. So then I have to go in with my same green color corrector and my concealing and foundation products to take care of that job. So for me personally, it would be ideal if there were a lighter shade, but it doesn't mean that it can't use the product. I'm just using it in a slightly more limited capacity than I think people with almost all other skin tones are using it or are able to use it. So let's look at it close up next to the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. In this footage, I have the Auric Glow Lust on one hand and I have Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter on the other. You can see that the lightest shade of the Flawless Filter, which is shade 1, shade Fair or Pale, it's about the same darkness, but it is more yellow, and that is a better match for me. So color-wise, the Hollywood Flawless Filter does give me a little bit more of the lightening, but it too is a bit too dark for me. With both of these products, the shade range doesn't go light enough for me to be able to take advantage of that quality, that sort of like skin tone evening quality that it promises. When they're sheared out, you can see side by side on my hand, they look so similar, right? They look pretty much indistinguishable from one another. Now let's look at Glow Lust compared to the Chanel Les Beige Fluid Illuminator, which is a bit lighter. I would love to see a Glow Lust shade that's the color of this Chanel luminizer on my hand. Blended out though, they look very similar. The Chanel product is more liquidy, so when they're first blended out, you can see that it has a bit more of a wet look shine. That's because it's still a bit wet on my hand. As it dries down, it starts to pretty much, again, look exactly the same, both as Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, as I discussed in my other video, and as Auric Glow Lust. These three products, there are subtle differences between them, but they pretty much serve all three the same function. Now let's compare the Auric Glow Lust in Morganite, which is the shade I have, the lightest shade, to my other products in swatches on my arm. So I'm gonna put it down on my arm, and then I'm going to put a pretty thick swatch of Hollywood Flawless Filter right next to it. And then next to that, the Les Beige Fluid Illuminator. So you can see without blending them out that the creams are three different colors. And then next to that, I've put a swatch of the Stay Naked Urban Decay Foundation in the shade 10NN. It's a foundation that is really bright on me. It's like the color of my neck, so much so that when I wear it, my face looks really washed out, but it's like my true base tone color if I want my skin to really just be kind of completely blanked out and exactly matched with the rest of my body. So that's that next swatch. And after that, I've put the three concealers that I use the most: the Makeup Forever Ultra HD in shade 11, which is called Pearl, the Erin's Faces Radiant Firming Concealer in Cottonwood, and the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in Chantilly, which is my spot concealer, my blemish concealer. So I've put all of those on my hand, blended them out a little bit, and then gone back and blended them out quite a lot. And in that third blend, you can see that as the luminizers sheer out, they blend and kind of melt away into my skin more. And you can see that the fact that there are slightly different opacities and slightly different undertones to them matters way less when they are sheared out. So that sort of belies the obsessive comparison of shades, because once they're sheared out, they pretty much all do the same thing. Now I'm going to show you the footage of myself applying Auric Glow Lust in Morganite to my face as the base of the makeup look that I'm wearing right now. I will say that I had put a lot of skincare on my skin this morning, and then I, did all the swatches, the overhead swatches, and so that skincare had a lot of time to set into my skin. It was a bunch of layers of serums that I had packed onto my skin, and when I sat down to film, my skin was really glowy. Like the finish that the skincare had left on my skin was really glowy. It looked like I already had a luminizer on, but I didn't. It was just skincare. So it's kind of interesting. When I first started doing it, I was like, this isn't ideal, because they're gonna be like, your skin's already glowing and now you're putting a glowy product on it. But it kind of is good, because you can see the difference between skin that's just kind of plump and moisturized from a lot of skincare and skin that's actually glowing because it has the added benefit of this product. But needless to say, if my skin had been duller than it was this morning when I sat down to film, you would have seen a much more dramatic difference between one side and the other when I had it all over one half of my face. And that's the footage I'm showing you now. I'm showing you a full pump. I used just one pump to cover my entire face, and I put half the pump on one side of my face so you can see the difference between bare, glowy skin and skin that's entirely covered with Glow Lust. And then I finished the project. I put the other half of the pump all over the other side of my face so you can see how my bare skin looked with Glow Lust all over it this morning. And hopefully you can see that it does soften the appearance of my blemishes a little bit. I have these nice juicy blemishes on my cheeks, so you can really see the effect of this satiny, glowy product over top of that texture. And you can also see that it hasn't lightened my skin at all. It hasn't mitigated any of the redness on my chin. I think if there were a shade lighter or a couple of shades lighter, then the lightest shade probably would help to mitigate some of the redness on my chin. There's no denying that it looks absolutely gorgeous on the skin. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful product. It also applies flawlessly, blends seamlessly, sets down. It's really easy to work with. It doesn't give you any trouble in that capacity. It performs like the luxury product that it is. To complete my base today, I did a bit of color correcting with my Sephora Bright Future Green color corrector to lighten up that redness. I went in with a tiny bit of Makeup Forever concealer under my eyes and on my nose and forehead and chin. and then I spot concealed my blemishes with my NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. But what that means is that when you look at my face in this makeup look, you're mostly seeing glow lust. The majority of my skin just has the glow lust on it. I only used those other products where I felt like I needed it to even out my skin tone. And I like that the glow lust covered skin blends seamlessly with the parts of my skin that have other makeup on them. The overall look I feel like is really cohesive and very, very glowy. So that's glow lust. Let's talk about the smoke reflect. I could not wait. This might be the thing that I was most interested in finding out about this. I could not wait to find out if the cream in this cream and powder eyeshadow product would have that moussey quality that the Tom Ford cream and powder cream has, that moussey quality that allows me to get a really beautiful, easy, seamless blend with a brush. I tend to struggle with cream eyeshadows, especially ones that don't set down. They pick up on themselves when you're blending them out. They don't blend well with a finger. They don't blend well with a brush. I've tried a number of liquid and cream eyeshadows over the course of my time on YouTube, and I think I've given away almost all of them, if not all of them, except for the Tom Ford, because I can just never get it to apply as well as a powder does. And therefore I feel like I can't reap the benefits of a cream, which I feel like are just like a more organic feel. Like I feel like if you can apply a cream well, it's gonna have a more organic feel. It's gonna be more one with your skin. But if you can't apply it easily, then like what's the point of having that benefit that you could reap if you could only apply it beautifully? What's the point of that, right? But the cream and powder, that's why it's one of my all-time favorite products, because I love being able to finally use a cream eyeshadow and have it work beautifully. And it does all of those same things. It's moussey like the one from Tom Ford. It's got enough body that it really provides shadow for you on the lid. It doesn't keep blending away, but it's soft enough, it's delicate enough that you can easily blend out those edges. It's absolutely beautiful. So it doesn't dry down too quickly. You have time to work with it, but then when it dries completely and it doesn't crease on my hooded lids. Very happy to report that she nailed it. This color, I'll give you a close-up swatch. It's gray. It's just gray. It's like a steely gray. It's truly grungy without being warm at all. But you know, because it's so easy to work with, if this color feeling, if this sort of like gunmetal-y cement, grungy alleyway gray is your fantasy, this is a great option for like a single beautiful holy grail product. The eyeshadow in here differs more than I expected it to from the eyeshadow topper in the Tom Ford cream and powder. It's more pigmented. You know, the reflect is a little bit shinier. I'll show you the comparison and you'll be able to see that even though I have different colors, like even though the Tom Ford topper that I have is a different color, you can see that it's very sheer compared to the topper in here, which is more of just an eyeshadow. It's not a super creamy, incredibly thick, rich, pigmented eyeshadow that'll like swatch for days. It's not like that. It's more of a topper than that, but it's not as much as just a sheer glossy topper as the one that I have in my Tom Ford Naked Bronze. Now, of course, the bronze one of this might be different, but I'm assuming that the three eyeshadows in the three Auric Smoke Reflects are made the same way, like have the same physical qualities. I might be wrong, I'm just assuming that. Whatever the case is, this one has a bit thicker of pigment than my Tom Ford one, but the texture is similar. You know, it's somewhat dry. The impact is not like completely insane, but I feel like that makes it essentially mistake-proof. Really, really user-friendly, easy to use, easy to blend, easy to wash it all over your eye without entirely obscuring what's underneath, and I love a shimmery shadow like that. The overall physical package is smaller than the Tom Ford cream and powder. It's a little bit smaller in every dimension, but it feels much more luxurious. It's heavier, it's glass instead of being all plastic. The way that the product sits in the base is different because this one is glass and it has that kind of rounded bottom rather than the Tom Ford, which is just like the bottom part of a flat plastic jar. And the top is much chunkier on the Tom Ford one. They're similar, but not exactly the same. I prefer the one from Auric. Physically, it's making the Tom Ford feel chintzy. Let's do some color comparisons. So I had a couple of things that I wanted to compare to the Ego Smoke Reflect cream, I pulled out my Victoria Beckham Lid Luster in Onyx, and you'll see that it is more black, and it is supposed to be black, and this is supposed to be gray, so they're not supposed to be the same color, but you can see that when blended out, they do have kind of something in common, and they're both kind of creamy. Of course, the Victoria Beckham isn't entirely a cream. It's a little bit more of a flaky powder that's creamy upon application, but it swatches much darker and it has more shimmer in it. I have my Rowan quad out, the 1111 quad. My first instinct was to compare the Auric Smoke Reflect Shadow in Ego, the cream shadow, to Hashtag from the 1111 Rowan quad, because it has that same sort of steely, grungy gray quality to it. And you know, the Rowan shades are also creams. But when I swatched it out, I saw that Hashtag is more multicolored, much shinier, and much, much sheerer. But then when I saw those three swatched out next to each other, I realized I wanted to grab the Rowan 52 Degrees Cool Quad and swatch this kind of blue shade, which is called Meow. Swatching these next to it made me realize that, especially for a cream shadow, Ego is actually unique to my collection, even though it was my third choice of the three, and I only got it because it was the only one left when I went to place the order. I ended up with something that I didn't have before, so that's kind of exciting. In terms of color comparison for the shadow, the little eyeshadow on top, I only have one shade in my collection that seems to come close, but it actually comes very, very, very close. It's Fairy Acid from JD Glow. This shade in the Smoke Reflect in Ego is almost an exact dupe for Fairy Acid from JD Glow. It's a little bit lighter and more silver. Fairy Acid has a little bit more grunge to its base, a little bit of a deeper base, but for all intents and purposes, they're very similar. The swatches are very similar. I'll show them to you and you'll be able to see they definitely grew on the same tree. I always think of Fairy Acid as having kind of a green reflect, of adding this like a sort of sage, or I don't know, like a lichen green to the eyes. And I think that Smoke Reflect kind of has that same vibe going on as well. It adds this slightly steely patina, pale mossy lichen green. Now I'll show you the application footage of the Smoke Reflect, which was so quick and so easy. I did this eye look in like 5 minutes. I just used my finger to put the cream on both lids, and it's moussey enough and dries down slowly enough that I was able to place it on both lids and then go back with a brush and blend it all over each lid, blend it out. I dipped it back into the product a little bit with the brush, especially to build it in the outer corner, but that part applied super fast, super easily. I also buffed some out on my lower lash line. Then I went in with a finger and I applied the shimmery shadow from my inner corner to about the middle of my lids. I didn't want to completely cover the base, but I covered most of it. And then used a brush to wash the glitter in an even sheerer layer all over the lid up to the brows and, around the outer corner a little bit to kind of blend it out into my skin. And that was it. It's one of my favorite kinds of eye looks to do. It was very quick and very easy. And, by the time I had finished, the cream had completely dried and there's no danger of it creasing. I like this look. I know that I would personally wear the rose gold more. If I had been able to grab it, I would have grabbed something for a review that I would probably then end up wearing a lot. Whereas this, because it's cool toned and it has that slight green tinge, I probably just won't tend to reach for it as much. I don't feel like it works as seamlessly with what I tend to wear or with my coloring. I'm very warm toned and this is cool, so it's more contrasty. And there's something really beautiful about that, but it doesn't quite bring me alive in the same way. But I'm glad that I was able to at least get one so that I could test it and let you know that it's very user-friendly and the formula is very elegant. I finished this look with the Jason Wu Hot Fluff in Biscotti. It's a multi-stick. I've been really loving the kind of slightly sunburned looks that it puts on my cheeks. I didn't put any highlighting products on my cheeks because I wanted you to see how well the Glow Lust holds its own, even with a matte cream blush. Even though I had taken a break, I put Glow Lust on my face and then I did my eye look. And so the Glow Lust really had time to set, even though it had already set. When I went back in with this, it's not really super pigmented and thick and hefty, but it's a pretty matte formula, cream formula. I went in with that on my cheeks and blended it out, and still my cheeks are really, really glowing. It did not cover up, the cream blush did not cover up the glow from my my base. So I wanted to show you that. And then I popped a very pale lip pencil onto my lips. It's another Jason Wu product that I'm testing. It's the lip pencil in the shade Woo Me. And that's the look. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts. My main final thought is that I hope that this brand sticks around. I really like what it represents. I like the edit so far, and I think that the price point is actually really good for beautiful, high quality, long lasting products that you'll love enough and that will last long enough that owning them will keep you from having to buy more of the same or from being tempted to buy more of the same. As I said at the beginning of the video, I really love this idea of kind of redoing what's already been done, but doing it better in absolutely every way. But what that means is that there can be a temptation to like buy a thing again that you already have. And so, you know, this is just like a word to the wise to try to sidestep that temptation. I really don't think that Glow by Auric is going anywhere. It's going to be there for you. And when it's time for you, if this is something that you really want for yourself and it's time for you to actually spend that money that you've budgeted for, hopefully, and you have space in your collection for something like this, hopefully, I actually think that these products are going to delight a lot of people. My favorite thing about the brand, my favorite choice that Sam and her team made, actually, my favorite choice that they made is to place a premium on inclusivity and representation. The messaging of the brand, the advertising, the fact that you see real skin and such a gorgeous array of skin tones, just beautiful people, fills me with joy. I mean, we always need more of that. That is my favorite thing that the brand did. But in addition to that, my other favorite thing is that they've produced these precious feeling objects that are designed to last. I'm really into fighting the urge to lose interest in your own stuff over time, right? I feel like one of my principles as a consumer these days is to reinvest my love in stuff that I already own, keep loving it as time passes. It's so tempting to just let something begin to feel passé after you've only owned it for a short time. And I'm all about making sure that things continue to feel beautiful and exciting to me even after I've owned them for a long time. This brand is making it easy, right? They're really setting you up to have a good, long love relationship with these products, giving you every tool to do that by making them so beautiful in every way and the performance so quality. That's it. That is all that I have to say today. I will definitely be following the future career of Glow by Auric with great interest. I'm curious to know what Sam will come up with next. If you are tempted by these products, if you're curious about them, I hope that this review has helped you. I also really hope that if you want to buy them, you'll be honest with yourself about whether or not a purchase like that is a good idea for you right now. I hope that you won't mortgage your future to buy makeup. I hope that you won't spend money that you don't have on makeup. Sometimes not buying the makeup is real self-care. Sometimes buying the makeup is real self-care. I just hope that you'll be honest with yourself about which one is which right now, because what I really want for you is to take extra good care of yourselves so that you can be the most effective versions of yourselves as you do your work in the world.